Hello students, welcome to next video of chemistry. Today in this video we will discuss chapter number 8, water. Water is most abundant compound on our planet, covering 3/4 of Earth's surface. It constitutes about 7/10 of our bodies and more than 9/10 of fruits and vegetables. Water exists in all three states: solid like ice, liquid like water, and gas like water vapors. We need water for domestic purposes like for cooking, drinking, washing and bathing. For agricultural purposes like irrigation, jute processing and dairy farming. Also for industrial purposes where we use water as solvent, means we dissolve many solid compounds in this liquid compound. Used as reactant, reactant means we start any chemical process with water and coolant. Sources of water are surface water bodies like rivers, ponds, lakes, seas and oceans, and groundwater. Now both surface water and groundwater are replenished by rain, means by water cycle. Here we discuss first topic. Water is a universal solvent. Solvent means in water we dissolve many solid substances. Water is a medium in which we can dissolve any substance. Universal means that it dissolves number of substances. Okay, so why water is universal solvent? Because it dissolves a large number of substances than any other solvent. And this is the only property of water that helps a river dissolve many minerals from soil and finally discharge them into the sea. As you all know, when we dissolve any solid substance in liquid substance, like when we dissolve salt in water, just imagine here in beaker we are having a water and in this spoon we are having a salt. So when we dissolve this salt in this water, then we get a solution. We studied that this solid dissolved is called as solute and this liquid in which we dissolve this solid is called as solvent. So this liquid is what? This liquid is called as solvent and this solid is called as a solute. And mixture of solute and solvent is called as solution. What is solution? When we dissolve any solid in a liquid, we get a mixture. That mixture is called as a solution. Now beta, here we study that how a solute dissolves in water. Now we know that if in this beaker we are having water, now these all round shaped structures, they represent a water molecule. Okay, so these all are water molecules. This is a solvent. Now when we add any solid in this water, now this is solid only. These small round shaped structures, these are molecules of solute or solid. Now when we add this solute in water, what will happen? These particles, they will take a space available in between the solvent or water molecules. Now 1, 2, 3. 3 water molecules and this space is vacant. So one molecule of the solute or solid will come and occupy this space. Okay, so we see over here that how solute dissolves in water. That is, when we mix any solute in water, then first of all, so that solute molecule will break up. Okay, these all solute molecules, they will break and they will hide themselves in a space available between these water molecules. Okay, when they hide themselves in a space available, then we see that they will dissolve in a water. They will dissolve in a water because they occupy intermolecular space available between the water molecules. Water is superior to other solvents. Why water is superior to other solvents? Because whenever we add any solid substance in water, then that solid substance break into two molecules or into two radicals. What are radicals? We study over here only. And water is electrically neutral. We know beta. Water is electrically neutral means on water we are not having any charge. On water molecule we are not having any charge. So this is electrically neutral. Neutral means there is no charge. You all know formula of water is H2O. 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. Now beta, its structure is like this. This solid line represents a force of attraction between oxygen and hydrogen atoms in water molecule. This is what? This is a force of attraction between hydrogen and oxygen, means that this hydrogen and oxygen both are attached to each other by a strong force of attraction that we representing over here with the solid line. Now beta, in water molecule, this oxygen will take a negative charge, partial negative, and this hydrogen will take a positive charge, partial positive. Same way, this another hydrogen also takes a partial positive charge, and oxygen once again will take a partial negative charge. So overall what we see over here, that is on oxygen we are having two partial negative charges, means we are having a partial two negative charges, and on hydrogen one we are having partial one positive, partial one positive. You can see these two negative charges can be cancelled with these two positive charges, because we know that positive and negative cancel each other. Okay, so that's why this water is electrically neutral. But now beta, this water is a polar solvent. Polar solvent. Now what is the meaning of polar? Polar means that a pole. Like you studied, in case of magnet we are having two poles. One is the north pole, another is the south pole. Okay, and this is called a magnet, having a two poles. Same is the case of water beta. We are having a two poles over here. This one is the negative pole, this is the positive pole. So that's why water is called as the polar solvent, because of two poles. One pole is negatively charged, another pole is positively charged. One pole is negatively charged, same way this one is a positively charged. So water is a polar solvent. So now here we study definition of a polar molecule or polar solvent. What is polar molecule or polar solvent? That is any molecule or any solvent in which we will have a positive and negative charges on atoms. Positive and negative charges on atoms is called as a polar molecule or polar solvent. And in case of water, we are having a slight negative charge on oxygen and slight positive charge on hydrogen. That's why water is a polar molecule or polar solvent. Understood? Water is a polar molecule or polar solvent. Why? Because of partial negative or slight negative charge on oxygen and slight positive charge on hydrogen, water is polar. Now, due to polarity, water molecule experience Coulomb attraction. Coulomb attraction is what? This is the electrostatic force of attraction between positive and negative charge. Experience Coulomb attraction for polar solutes, means that any solid having a positive negative charges. Polar means positive negative charge, including those containing radicals. Now beta, when solute is stayed in water, then what happen? Water molecule cling on the solute molecule or radical. For example, if here we are having this molecule is of common salt NaCl, and this is a molecule of water H2O. So this water will cling on this molecule when we add salt in water. So here we are having a salt molecule and this water molecule will cling on this only. And what will happen? See beta, this is a NaCl molecule. This is again a force of attraction between two atoms, and this is a water molecule. Now here we are having a partial negative and a partial positive charge, partial positive charge, partial negative charge. So what will happen over here? This NaCl beta, this is salt, and here on NaCl also we are having charge. On sodium we are having a positive charge. On chlorine we are having a negative charge. Sodium, why positive charge? Because sodium is metal and chlorine is non-metal. We studied metals beta, always we will have a positive charge on metals, and on non-metals we always have a negative charge, non-metals. Okay, so chlorine being non-metal is negatively charged, sodium being metallic in nature having a positive charge. So when these two will come in contact, what will happen? This is positive, this is negative. So new force will develop between this positive and negative, and between this negative and this positive. Now beta, why new force will develop? Like you studied, if we talk about north and north pole, they repel each other. North and south pole, they attract each other. Means that unlike poles attract each other. So same way, unlike charges also attract each other. Means positive negative will attract each other. Negative negative will repel each other. Positive positive will also repel each other. So this negative and positive, they will attract each other and new force will develop. This positive and negative will attract and new force will develop. So ultimately what will happen? A force between sodium and chlorine will break. And this sodium will give Na positive and this chlorine will give Cl negative. This is called as radical beta. Radical is what? This is anything having charge. Positive charge or a negative charge is called as radical. Okay, so when this sodium chloride will break into sodium radical and chlorine radical, then the sodium chloride will dissolve in water. Understood? Means that if here in this beaker we are having a water, if we add NaCl in this, what will happen? Means that this force of attraction will break. And this will give Na positive radical and Cl negative radical. So these two, one will occupy space over here and another will also occupy space over here in solvent molecules. And this NaCl will dissolve. Same is the case of another salts beta. This NaCl is salt, and same way another salts like, first of all, what are salts beta? These are compounds of metal and non-metal. Examples like NaCl, MgSO4, CuSO4. Then we are having another example like sodium sulfate, Na2SO4. This is sodium chloride, magnesium sulfate, copper sulfate, sodium sulfate. So this is metal, this is non-metal. Metal, non-metals. Metal, non-metals. Again metal and non-metals. Now these one, they will take a positive charge like we studied over here. Metal always take a positive, non-metal negative. And these one, they will take a negative charge, and these all are salts. Now see in this paragraph, all salts made up of radicals. Means that in all salts we are having a positive negative charges. Atom having a positive negative charges called as radicals. And in case of salts, we will have a metals, non-metals. Metal will have positive, non-metal will have a negative. On the other hand beta, whatever will be written in the front will be positively charged and the final will be negatively charged. So examples of salts like sodium chloride NaCl, this one first is positively charged, negatively charged. This one is Na positive, Cl negative. Sodium sulfate, Na2SO4. This one, first one will be positively charged, Na positive, SO4 2 negative. This one, which is a negatively charged. Magnesium sulfate, MgSO4. First one will be positively charged, second one will be negatively charged. Same is the case of copper sulfate. First is positively charged, second one is negatively charged. Then ammonium nitrate. First one is positively charged ammonium and this one is a negatively charged. So these all are examples of salts, and when we all add in water, then they will form a two radicals, like ammonium nitrate will form a ammonium radical and a nitrate radical, and this ammonium nitrate will dissolve in water. Now if we add any base, beta, what is base? Base is any compound in which OH group will be written. Okay, so for example NaOH, OH is there, so this is a base. KOH, this is a base. Calcium OH twice, this is a base because of this group. Ammonium hydroxide NH4OH, this is a basic group. So OH is a basic group. Whenever OH will be written in any compound, that compound will be called as a base. And bases are also soluble in water because again we get two radicals. First one is the positive radical. OH will always be a negative radical. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive and negative radicals. So due to presence of radicals in bases, bases are also soluble in water. Next, all acids. Now what are acids, beta? These are compounds having a hydrogen atom. Hydrogen, HCl. First we'll have a positive, H positive, Cl negative. HNO3, hydrogen is present, so this is again acid. It will have a H positive, NO3 negative. H2SO4, H present over here, this is H positive and SO4 2 negative. Don't see that, beta, OH doesn't mean that here oxygen and hydrogen also present, but they are not together, they are separated. Okay, so this is only a acid. In base, O and H will be written together. Then these all are, beta, polar compounds. These all acids, they are polar compounds and therefore they dissolve in water. So what we see over here, that is the all polar solute molecules or solute compounds, they will dissolve in water. All polar, like salts, acids and bases. Salt is a compound of metal, non-metal. Base is a compound of metal with OH group, and acid is a compound of hydrogen and non-metal. Next we talk about solutions, suspensions and colloids. Solutions and colloids are homogeneous mixtures. Suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. Homogeneous mixture means composition same throughout, and heterogeneous means composition different. Solution example is like mixture of salt and water, mixture of sugar and water. Colloid example like creams. Suspension like muddy water, mixture of mud and water, or mixture of sand and water. So what is solution? Solution is a homogeneous mixture of one or more solutes with a solvent. One or more solutes means that we add one or more solid compounds in a liquid compound. Solid compound will be called as solute and liquid compound will be called as a solvent. For example, if we add salt in water, salt will be solute, water will be solvent. If we add salt and sugar together in water, salt and sugar will be called as solute. We are having two solutes over here, and water will be called as a solvent. Now some common examples of solutions are like mixtures of common salt, water, copper sulfate, calcium chloride, potassium nitrate, potassium permanganate or ammonium chloride in water. All are homogeneous mixtures and all are solutions. Now what are different characteristics of solution? Solution is transparent, beta, and it passes through filter paper or any membrane. Why? Because size of solute particles is very small, that is approximate 1 nanometer. 1 nanometer means 10 raised to power minus 9 meter, because 1 nano means 10 raised to power 9 minus 9. So size of solute particles very small, approximate 10 raised to power minus 9 meter. So that's why this solution pass through filter paper or membrane due to smaller size of solute particles. Now see over here, these all are solutions beta, and all are transparent because we can see that what is behind these solutions. Now behind this we are having something dark. Behind this we are having something that is only a white in appearance. So these solutions, these are transparent. We can see through these solutions. Next we talk about suspension. Suspension is a heterogeneous mixture of one or more dispersed phases in dispersion medium. Now here we learn the meaning of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. When we studied about solution, we studied two terms. One is the solute, another is the solvent. Solute is solid and solvent is liquid. For example, salt and water. Salt is solute and water is solvent. Now in case of suspension and colloid, we use dispersed phase term instead of solute and dispersion medium term instead of solvent. Understood? We say that dispersed phase is mixed in dispersion medium instead of saying solute is mixed in solvent. Now, example of suspension is like muddy water. You can see in this diagram, we are having a muddy water, that is the mixture of mud and water. So mixture of mud and water, mud plus water. Now this is a suspension beta, and this is a mixture of mud and water. Here mud is called as dispersed phase and water is called as dispersion medium. So here we will not use terms solute and solvent. We will not say that mud is solute, water is solvent, because solute and solvent terms we use in solution only. In case of suspension, which is a heterogeneous mixture, we use terms dispersed phase for solute and dispersion medium for solvent. Now some other examples of suspensions are like chalk. Chalk is what? This is calcium carbonate. Gypsum, that is the calcium sulfate dihydrate, or a blackboard chalk. When we mix these in water, we get suspension, because we know that they will not completely dissolve in water. So we get a somewhat translucent mixture. So what we say about suspensions beta? Suspensions, these are translucent. Why translucent? Because the size of dispersed phase particles in case of suspension is greater as compared to the size of solute particles in solution. In solution, we studied size of solute particle approximate 1 nanometer, that is 10 raised to power minus 9 meter. But here size is 10 raised to power minus 6 meter, which is greater than the size of a solute particle in solution. So this is a translucent. Now we discuss some other examples of suspensions, like a suspension of liquid in liquid. Liquid in liquid means that a dispersed phase as well as dispersion medium both will be liquid in state and is called as emulsion. Mixture of liquid in liquid is called as emulsion if it will be heterogeneous. Example, oil and water. We know that oil will not dissolve in water. This is a heterogeneous mixture. Oil and water both are liquid, so this is called as emulsion. Same way, another example is like mixture of kerosene and water. Kerosene will not dissolve in water. That is the heterogeneous mixture. So liquid means emulsion. If we take example of water and milk, that is not emulsion, because water and milk both will dissolve in one another. So that is not a suspension. That is not a heterogeneous mixture. Now, a liquid in gas means one will be liquid in state, another will be gas in state. Liquid in gas means that gas is a dispersion medium and liquid is a dispersed phase. Liquid in gas means liquid is present in small amount, gas is present in more amount. Whatever will be present in less amount will be called as dispersed phase, and whatever will be present in more amount is called as dispersion medium. Example is like fog. Fog is a mixture of water and air. Water is present in less amount, air present in more amount. Next, a mixture of solid in gas. Solid is called as dispersed phase and gas will be a dispersion medium. Example is like smoke. Carbon in air. Carbon, dust particles. So carbon is a dispersed phase and air is a dispersion medium. So right over here, oil is a dispersed phase, water is dispersion medium. Same way here, water is a dispersed phase and air is a dispersion medium. Here, carbon is a dispersed phase and air is a dispersion medium, and all are suspensions. Now we talk about another colloid. What is colloid, beta? This is a homogeneous mixture of one or more dispersed phases in dispersion medium. Again, dispersed phase means that it will be present in less amount, dispersion medium will be present in more amount. Examples are like, see, jam, jelly, whipped creams, gelatin. So here you can see a bottle of jam. This is called as colloid. Why colloid? See, this is a homogeneous mixture, but here you can see that this jam is opaque. Now opaque, that's why we see over here, that is the size of dispersed phase particles in case of colloid will be greater. And beta, this is approximate in between 10 to the power minus 9 meter to 10 to the power minus 6 meter. 10 to the power minus 9 meter to 10 to the power minus 6 meter. Now we talk about characteristics of solution, suspension and colloid. Solution is homogeneous, suspension is heterogeneous, colloid is homogeneous. In case of solution, size of particles is approximate 10 to the power minus 9 meter. Colloid between 10 to the power minus 9 meter to 10 to the power minus 6 meter. And in case of solution is large, that is 10 to the power minus 6 meter or more than that. Now beta, in case of solution, size of particles is smaller, so particles they will not settle. In case of colloid, they will also not settle again because of small size. In case of suspension, they will settle because of more size. And behavior towards light, solution is transparent because size of particles is very small, so they will not scatter light. In case of suspension, there is a scattering of light because size of particles is more. So when light will fall on particles they will scatter light in different directions. In case of colloid, again there we will have a scattering of light because size of particle is enough to scatter light in different directions, and colloid is not transparent. So what we studied over here about solution is a mixture, homogeneous mixture of solute and solvent. Colloid is also homogeneous mixture of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Suspension is a heterogeneous mixture of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Now beta, this solution is further divided into three types, means that we are having three types of solutions. One is saturated, another is unsaturated and supersaturated. Now we discuss all types of solution. So depending upon the content of solute present in solvent, solutions are of three kinds: unsaturated, saturated and supersaturated. A solution capable of dissolving more solute at given temperature is called unsaturated solution. Means that any solution in which only small amount of solute dissolved in solvent and we can dissolve more amount. We can dissolve, but we dissolved only small amount. That is the unsaturated solution. A solution containing maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved at given temperature is called as saturated solution. Means that maximum amount dissolved, we are not able to dissolve more amount of solute at that temperature. Now beta, how we prepare unsaturated solution? For example, we take a small amount of water in a beaker. Then we add only 1 spoonful of sugar. We dissolve. We get unsaturated solution. Now if we add 2, 3, 4 spoons full of sugar and we dissolve, okay, means that after that if we add even a more some amount of sugar more, then that will not dissolve at all. So we get a saturated solution. What is saturated solution? That is the solution in which maximum amount of solute dissolved and more of solute cannot be dissolved. Now supersaturated solution, a solution containing more solute than given amount of solvent is capable of dissolving. Means that if we heat this saturated solution and after heating if we add a more amount of solute, that solute will dissolve and that solution is called as the supersaturated solution. And supersaturated solution we get only when we heat a saturated solution and we dissolve more amount of solute. Without increasing temperature we can't get a supersaturated solution. Now here in this diagram you can see, if we add only small amount of blue vitriol, that is the copper sulfate, in water, we get a unsaturated solution. Why this solution is unsaturated? Because if we add more amount of blue vitriol, that will also dissolve. So in this you can see, we add more amount of blue vitriol, we see that will also dissolve. Now we add more amount again, then we will see that amount will settle down at the bottom. Now this solution is saturated solution plus solute. This solution is saturated and this is solute. Why this solution is saturated? Because this solution contains maximum amount of solute and this solute added will not dissolve at all at the given temperature. Now if we heat this saturated solution, we will see beta, this solute will also dissolve and we get a dark solution. This solution is called as the supersaturated solution. Solution, that is the solvent, is capable of dissolving only this much amount, but this is left only. But if we heat, this left amount will also dissolve, that is the supersaturated solution. And beta, if we cool this supersaturated solution, we will see that extra amount of solute that dissolved only because of high temperature will again form a crystals. Okay, so there we will have a crystallization from supersaturated solution upon cooling. Next we discuss hydrates. Before doing this topic beta, you should know that where we use word hydrous and anhydrous. Hydrous word we use wherever water will be written, okay, means that presence of water, and anhydrous means without water. Wherever water will be absent we use word anhydrous. Now you can see over here we are having two examples, copper sulfate pentahydrate and ferrous sulfate heptahydrate. Now beta, here in this compound they have written 5 molecules of water and 7 molecules of water over here, and these water molecules are called as water of crystallization. Water of crystallization, okay, and this whole substance is called as a hydrate. So what is hydrate? Hydrate is a substance containing water molecules, okay, substance containing water molecules called as hydrate. Like you can see over here also, a substance containing water of crystallization is called as hydrate. And what is the water of crystallization? This is the water present in a crystal. Water present in a crystal is called as water of crystallization. We are having many examples of hydrates like washing soda, sodium carbonate, 10 molecules of water. Global salt, sodium sulfate, 10 molecules of water. Calcium chloride hexahydrate. Hexa means 6 molecules of water. Calcium chloride hexahydrate. White vitriol. This is zinc sulfate, 7 molecules of water. Blue vitriol. This is copper sulfate pentahydrate. Green vitriol, ferrous sulfate heptahydrate. Means that the color of this compound is green, color of this is blue, and color of this compound is white. Next is Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate heptahydrate, cobalt chloride dihydrate, that is the COCl2 and 2 molecules of water. These all are examples of hydrates. Why? Because you can see in all we are having a water molecules, and these are a water of crystallization. So these are hydrates. Now we study loss of water of crystallization upon heating. Means that if we take washing soda, this is sodium carbonate, 10 molecules of water. If we take this compound and if we heat this compound, beta, this compound will lose a water of crystallization. Why it will lose a water of crystallization? Because when we heat, what will happen? These water molecules, they will evaporate. These water molecules will be changed into water vapor and they will go in environment, and we left with only sodium carbonate. Okay, so the loss of water of crystallization on heating means that whenever we heat any hydrate, then water of crystallization will be lost. So you can see in this diagram also what we have to do. We have to take any hydrate in a test tube. When we heat that hydrate, we will see that the steam will come out. Okay, why steam will come out? Because we are having a water of crystallization in hydrate, and that water of crystallization will evaporate in the form of water vapor. So what we see over here, beta, we are having example of hydrate is like copper sulfate pentahydrate, which is blue in color. Okay, having a blue crystals. Now if we heat it, what will happen? It will lose 5 molecules of water, because this water will form water vapors. So this copper sulfate pentahydrate now will change into copper sulfate only, and this copper sulfate is white in color. This copper sulfate pentahydrate is blue in color. Okay, means that color of this compound only because of water molecules. Now beta, this is a copper sulfate which is white and powdery in appearance. Now if we add some amount of water in this copper sulfate, then again we will get blue crystals of this hydrate. Means that water of crystallization can be lost upon heating, and we can also add water of crystallization in a compound. How? If we just add a few drops of water in that compound. Now taking advantage of hydrates, we learn how we test for water. That is how we came to know that given compound is water or not. So what we have to do for this? We have to take any anhydrous salt, for example copper sulfate, anhydrous copper sulfate. Anhydrous means without water, which is white in color, white and powdery. Now what we do? We just add few drops of that compound in a anhydrous copper sulfate, in this white powdery substance. And beta, if color of this substance will change into blue color, then this compound will be called as water. Why? Because this is only anhydrous copper sulfate. If this will be added in this, and if this will be water, then this anhydrous copper sulfate will change into hydrous copper sulfate. What is hydrous copper sulfate? Copper sulfate pentahydrate. Pentahydrate means that hydrate of copper sulfate. Hydrate of copper sulfate, which is blue in color. We know that. Blue in color and having crystals. So if color of this copper sulfate change from white to blue, we come to know that given substance is a water. If color will not change, it remains white only, then this substance will not be water at all. Now we talk about hygroscopic substances. Hygroscopic. Hygro means that if any substance will absorb moisture, will absorb water. Hygro means water. Okay, so if it will absorb water or moisture from atmosphere, that substance will be called as hygroscopic substance. A substance that absorbs moisture from atmosphere is called as hygroscopic substance. For example, anhydrous calcium chloride. Anhydrous calcium chloride is hygroscopic. Why? Because this anhydrous calcium chloride will absorb moisture from atmosphere and will change into calcium chloride hydrate, that is the dihydrate. Okay, same way anhydrous magnesium chloride, it will also absorb moisture and will change into hydrate. Silica gel, that is the compound of sodium with silicon and oxygen. This is the sodium silicate. Sodium hydroxide, NaOH. Soda lime. Soda lime means that a mixture of sodium hydroxide and lime means calcium hydroxide. Soda lime, sodium hydroxide plus calcium hydroxide. Sulfuric acid means H2SO4. All are hygroscopic substances because all absorb moisture from atmosphere. Now, you might have seen beta a small cloth bag containing solid inside a box of medicine, thermoflask or camera, or in many more things. Now this bag contains one solid. That solid is what? Silica gel. And silica gel is what? This is a sodium silicate. This is a hygroscopic substance. Why? Because it absorbs all moisture from air. So when we just keep it in any bag or in any thermoflask, then what will happen? It will absorb all moisture from air and it will keep air inside the box dry. Now, if any solid hygroscopic substance absorb moisture from atmosphere and dissolve and will form a concentrated solution, that hygroscopic substance will be called as deliquescent substance. Deliquescent substance means that it will absorb moisture from atmosphere and will dissolve in that moisture and will form a concentrated solution. Examples like calcium chloride, magnesium chloride and sodium hydroxide, all are deliquescent substances because the sodium oxide, first of all, it will absorb moisture from atmosphere. So this is hygroscopic and is solid in state. Now it absorb moisture and will dissolve in that moisture and will disappear. Means that it will form a concentrated solution. So that's why this is a deliquescent substance. We talk about the action of metal and metal oxide on water. What does it mean? It means when we add any metal in water, then what will happen? Or when we add any metal oxide in water, then what will happen? Now beta, in order to understand this topic, you should learn first of all this activity series. What is this? This is activity series. And what is the meaning of this activity series? It means that you can see over here, hydrogen atom is highlighted. Now beta, all the elements above hydrogen are more reactive and all the elements below hydrogen are less reactive. Means these all elements, these are more reactive as compared to hydrogen and these are less reactive as compared to hydrogen. Now if these elements are more reactive than hydrogen, so what will happen beta? If we add these metals in water, water is what? Water is H2O. Now we can write water like this, HO and H. This is a structure of water. Now when we add these metals in water, what will happen? These metals will displace one hydrogen of water and will attach to this OH group. For example, if we add sodium metal in water, sodium metal will displace one hydrogen and will come over here with OH group. So what it will form? Instead of hydrogen, we write sodium, O and H, means we will get sodium hydroxide. Understood? So what we see over here beta, if metals above hydrogen we add in water, they will displace hydrogen atom of water and they will form hydroxides. They will form hydroxides. Now beta, they will not only form hydroxides, many more compounds also formed, we study later only. But here you have to keep in mind beta, metals that are on the top in this activity series like potassium and magnesium. Now beta, these metals react explosively with water, means there we will have a vigorous reaction. Vigorous reaction means there will be a evolution of heat, potassium and sodium, because these metals are the most reactive. Now calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc and iron also react with the water and they will also form compounds. But tin and lead, these metals, no doubt they are above hydrogen in activity series, but these metals will not react with water. They will not show any reaction with water. Understood? These metals, tin and lead. So we study action of metals from potassium to iron on a water. Firstly, we learn action of sodium metal with water. Means when we add sodium metal and water together, what will happen? Now the sodium metal is more reactive than hydrogen. You can see in activity series, these all metals are more reactive than hydrogen. More reactive. And these are less reactive. Okay. These two metals, they will give explosive reaction. Means they will react vigorously. Now sodium, when we add in water, water is what? HOH. So this sodium will displace one hydrogen and will form sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide and H2 gas. Now this H will be unstable and will combine with one more hydrogen atom and will form H2 gas. Okay. This is sodium hydroxide, which is alkaline in nature, means this is a basic compound, and this H2 is a gas. Now beta, this H2 gas will burn with a pop sound. Means if we bring a burning matchstick near to this gas, it will produce a pop sound. Next we learn, when we add potassium metal in water, then what will happen? Again this potassium will displace one hydrogen from water and will form a potassium hydroxide, KOH, and H2 will be formed. This is potassium hydroxide beta. Again this H2 will burn with a pop sound. Now this is again a alkali compound. This is again alkali. This is what? This is a base compound. This is a base. We studied in first topic what are bases. Any compound in which OH group is present is called as base. So this is base and NaOH is also base. So we are getting over here base, means when metal will react with water, it will form a basic compound. It will form a basic compound. Next we study action of calcium on water. Calcium is again more reactive as compared to hydrogen. You can see in activity series, this is placed on third number. So it will again displace hydrogen atom from water and we get calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice plus hydrogen gas. This is again alkaline in nature. This is again a basic compound. Okay. Now next, action of magnesium on water. Now beta, when we add magnesium in water, we get magnesium oxide, not magnesium hydroxide. What we get? Magnesium oxide plus H2. Means this magnesium will displace both hydrogen atoms from water. Will displace both hydrogen atoms from water and will form magnesium oxide and H2 gas. Now why it displays two hydrogen atoms and giving only oxide, not hydroxide? Because potassium, sodium and calcium, these metals are most reactive and these metals will form hydroxides. Potassium, sodium, calcium will form hydroxide and these metals beta, these metals will form oxides with water. These metals starting from magnesium, then all the metals, these metals will form oxides. Okay. Same way, if we talk about iron beta, iron will not react with the water, not with cold water. It will react with hot water, means that steam, because iron is less reactive. So iron react with water, that is the steam. Again it will displace both hydrogen atoms and will form oxide, which is a black in color. Along with this, hydrogen gas will be formed. Okay. So you can again see in activity series, this iron is less reactive. That's why we need steam over here. In case of potassium, sodium and calcium, we will get hydroxides even with liquid water. In case of magnesium, we get oxide with liquid water, but in case of iron, reaction only will be with the steam, that is with hot water. And what we get? We get oxide. In this diagram, you can see how we convert iron metal into iron oxide That is, in this we will take water. So when we heat water, it will form water vapors. Water vapors, they will go up and they will come in this tube. Now here we have taken iron. When we heat this iron will react with steam. Steam is nothing but water. Iron is what? This is Fe. So these two, they will react and they will form a new compound, that is the Fe3O4. This is oxide of iron plus H2 will be formed, and this is a hydrogen gas that is formed, means that this hydrogen is one of the product. Next we study action of water on metal oxides. Now metal oxides of reactive metals like potassium, sodium and calcium. When two oxides of these metals we add water, then these oxides will be converted into hydroxides. Okay, this potassium oxide will convert into potassium hydroxide, sodium oxide will convert into sodium hydroxide, and calcium oxide will convert into calcium hydroxide. So what we learnt over here, beta, that is the all metals above hydrogen except tin and lead react with water and will give us either oxides or hydroxides. First three metals will give us hydroxides and these metals will give us oxides. Now these metals can react with liquid water, but these metals will react with only hot water, means with steam only. Okay, now if we talk about oxides of metal, then oxides of most reactive metals like potassium, sodium and calcium will be converted into hydroxide upon addition of water. Now we talk about hard water and soft water. So a water that lathers easily with soap is called as soft water, and any water does not lather easily with soap is called as hard water. Means that water, if it will form easily with soap, will be a soft water. If not easily, then will be a hard water. Now what makes water hard, beta? These are the salts present in water. Salts of magnesium and calcium. Underline. Salts of calcium and magnesium present in water makes water hard, and these salts will be hydrogen carbonates, sulfates or chlorides. Hydrogen carbonates, sulfates or chlorides. Hydrogen carbonates means we will have a HCO3 attached with calcium or magnesium. Sulfate means SO4 attached with calcium or magnesium, and chloride means that Cl will be attached. Soap is what? This is sodium salt of fatty acid. Fatty acid is organic acid, mainly contain carbon atom, and we get from nature. Now sodium salt of fatty acid present in soap react with the salt present in hard water like calcium hydrogen carbonate and give two new compounds, sodium hydrogen carbonate and calcium salt of fatty acid. This is solid in state, means we get precipitates of this, and these precipitates, they will leave a dirty stain on a cloth and also cause irritation of skin. Now this calcium salt of fatty acid will not form leather with we can say water or with soap and water. Temporarily and permanently hard water. If hardness of water sample removed by boiling, then temporarily hard water, and if not removed by boiling, then that water is called as permanently hard water. Temporary hardness is because of hydrogen carbonates of calcium and magnesium, and permanent is because of chlorides and sulfates of magnesium and calcium. Next we study softening of water. Softening is a process of converting hard water into soft water. Okay, so if hardness of water is removed, soft water is produced, and this whole process is called as a softening of water. Now here we study that how we soften a temporarily hard water and how we soften a permanent hard water. Now temporarily hard water can be softened by boiling. So when we heat temporarily hard water contain hydrogen carbonate salt. Okay, so like calcium hydrogen carbonate present in hard water. Upon heating, what will happen? This will decompose and will convert into calcium carbonate, which is solid in state, and carbon dioxide will go in atmosphere, and along with this there will be formation of water. Okay, upon heating, this compound will decompose. Decompose means this compound will break into calcium carbonate, water, and carbon dioxide. Now, treating with washing soda. Washing soda is what? This is sodium carbonate. Sodium carbonate. Okay, washing soda having formula sodium carbonate 10 molecules of water. This is a hydrate. Now beta, now if we add sodium carbonate means washing soda in hard water containing calcium sulfate salt, then what will happen? These two compounds, they will react and they will form a new compounds. Now see over here beta, this is sodium over here and this is calcium over here. Now this sodium and calcium will be displaced, means this calcium will go in this compound and this sodium will come in this compound. Okay, so sodium will come over here, will form Na2SO4, and this calcium will go there, will form a calcium carbonate, CaCO3. Okay, so due to formation of these two compounds, we will get a soft water now. Now next, if chloride salt will be present in hard water, then same way when we add washing soda, what will happen? There we will have a exchange of positive radicals. We have studied first radicals, they are positive, and the last one, they are negative. So this radical and this radical will be exchanged again. This calcium will come over here, will form a calcium carbonate like this only, and this sodium will come over here and give us new compound sodium chloride, and we will get a soft water. Softening of water is necessary. Why we soften water? Like in previous topic we studied, if we will not soften water, if we use hard water for washing clothes, then hard water will leave a stain, dirty stain on cloth, and that stain can cause skin irritation. Now on the other hand beta, if we take a bath with hard water, then what will happen? Salts present in hard water, they form precipitates on our skin and also again cause irritation of skin. Another reason for softening of water, it is not possible to properly cook food stuff in hard water. That's why we soften water. Another is like hard water not injurious to health. That's why we soften water. We drink only a soft water, not hard water. Another point is like you can see, if hard water used in industrial purposes, then hard water produces a white deposit of insoluble substances. This white deposit of insoluble substances called as scales. Why white deposit is produced? Because we studied that precipitates will be formed. Okay, so in order to avoid this, soft water also used in industries instead of hard water.